Yeah, this is, I remember the last time we were together was at Mayim Rabim, I believe. Was it last year? Adath, okay. So I think I was out of town last year, but it's beautiful that our three shuls, Mayim Rabim, Adath Yeshurun, and Shari Chesed, it's our turn to host. And so welcome to everybody who's here. And we know this is Shabbat Chazon, Chazon Yeshayahu, the vision of Isaiah. And we are going to begin promptly with our speaker for the evening. And first of all, I just want to say how gracious, Ilan, you are for accepting to come and speak and teach us this evening. And so the way of the evening will pretty much go according to what you saw on the schedule that is out here. We'll have our speaker and time for Q&A, and then probably around 9:10ish or so we'll do a Mariv and Havdalah, and we'll go right into our chanting of Echa. And for Echa, we do have candles. We'll dim the lights for that. Those that would like to sit on the floor, please use the space as makes good sense for you, and make yourself at home in the building, okay? Ilan is the son of Jewish refugees from Libya and Egypt, and was born and raised in Haifa, beautiful port city, beautiful gardens, the Baha'i Gardens, and he served as an officer in the Israeli Defense Force for 6 years, achieving the rank of captain. And after completing his service in the military, he founded a software company in Israel and later merged that with a Minneapolis-based enterprise. He serves as the executive director of Minnesotans Against Terrorism, and he is a sought-after speaker. And we've been fortunate enough to have him come to Shul and give several divrei Torah, and we've been blessed by that. Ilan, toda rabah, for Nisha Koach, for all of that. You're so well versed. You really are a Renaissance man. You've given presentations to many diverse audiences in high schools, churches, private gatherings, in addition to being on TV over the last 25 years. You are deeply engaged in our community, not here in Minneapolis, but also worldwide, especially when it comes to Jewish-Christian relations. You've served on the Jewish Christian Library and Center, Jewish Community Relations Council, the Minneapolis Jewish Federation. You are a proud alumnus of the Harry K. Leadership Institute, and you are particularly connected to the African communities here in Minneapolis area, and have traveled there to places in Africa and Ethiopia especially. In 2004, you were honored by the Minneapolis Jewish Federation Young Leadership Award. Your work is ongoing, so really this is to be continued. And even when there was a time which was a confusing time for many people, you sought to pursue something, a long-held aspiration for you, and that was to enroll in rabbinical school, and that you were ordained back in December of 2022. And you live here. Thank God you live here. It's hard to track you both down because you're all over the world, but with Kathy and Ilan are the proud parents of 4 daughters, one is living in Israel, grandparents to 3 grandchildren, and 2 of whom also live in Israel. It's a privilege to welcome you and your wife Kathy here to Shari Chesed and Adath community and Mayim Rabim community. And your topic, we're going to learn about from mourning to meaning, Tish'a B'Av, this 9th day of Av, God, Jerusalem, and me, bringing ancient bonds to life today. So Ilan, b'vakasha. Yeah. There's water for everybody. There's some water in the back and there's some water there. And I know for Tish'a B'Av maybe people don't want to drink, but it's not there yet. So.
Shalom, everybody. First, thank you, Rabbi Tedke. I will start actually with some questions. So I want to know how many people here today are from Sha'ar Chesed. Can I see hands? So I want to thank you for hosting, to Sha'ar Chesed for hosting this today. Also, I know that you're partnering with other congregations. So how many people here today are members of either Adas Tish'un or Maim Rabim? Can I see hands? This is beautiful. Thank you. And I know that we have also people watching us online. I was wondering actually, how many people here are not members of these three congregations? Can I see hands? Thank you. Where are you from? Do you mind?
I'm from Bethel.
Okay, welcome. Welcome too. Okay, so first it is a privilege to be here with you today. I have 3 points that I'm going to talk about today. Some of them you can see there on the slide. Tish'a B'Av, God and us, and Jerusalem and God's plan. Tonight is the eve of Tish'a B'Av. It's the 9th day in the Hebrew month of Av. Now, how many people here, that's a question, I'm going to ask you to raise your hand, have attended Tish'a B'Av services in any of the past 5 years? Can I see hands? Good. So I have a loyal audience in here. So we have here a special service for Tish'a B'Av. So I want to ask you, is Tish'a B'Av is a holiday? No right or wrong answers today, by the way. Is it a holiday? Okay. Actually, it's not a holiday. It is a major fast day, but it is not commanded by God in the Torah. At least not in the way holidays are, with specific mention of the month and day, right? So, for example, for Rosh Hashanah, God commands us, and I quote from Vayikra, the book of Leviticus, chapter 23, verses 24, 26. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, speak to the children of Israel, saying, in the 7th month, on the first day of the month, it shall be Shabbos for you. And in remembrance of the shofar blast, a holy occasion, you shall not perform any work of labor, and you shall not offer any fire offering to the Lord. So this is how God commands on holidays, right? It's a very appointed time, month and day. But Tish'a B'Av is not one of them. It is a major fast day, yet it is not directly commanded in the Torah with specific date, as I said. However, one event in the Torah is connected to Tish'a B'Av, not directly, but through the oral Torah in the Talmud. I'm not going to talk too much about it today because I want to talk about the other reasons. So some events related to Tish'a B'Av are also in the Tanakh, okay, in the Bible itself. It is considered the saddest day in the Jewish calendar, commemorating a series of devastating events throughout Jewish history. So now I'm going to ask you a question, and I hope many of you will have answers. Again, remember, there's no right or wrong answer. So throughout history, what happened, as you can remember, on Tish'a B'Av? What are we actually commemorating? Yes, I'm actually asking. I'm not testing you guys. So destruction of the temples, right? So the destruction of the first temple, which happened in 586 before the Common Era, BCE. It was by the Babylonians, or the Nebuchadnezzar. It led to the exile of the Jewish people to Babylon, right? We said destruction of the temples, right? So the second temple also, 70 CE, it was by the Romans under Titus, and it marked the beginning of the Jewish diaspora. Okay? Both are pretty major. What else happened on Tish'a B'Av? Yes? Yes, so we have the expulsion from Spain in 1492. Okay, that was the decree, the famous decree, and Jews had to leave by Tish'a B'Av. Okay, so that's the connection. What else? Any other connections to Tish'a B'Av? Yes. You're right. You're right. There's also the expulsion from England in 2090, right? And 1290, okay? And Jews were expelled by King Edward I. That's good. What else happened on Tish'a B'Av? Yes, Bruce. Right. So remember I told you that even though it wasn't commanded, there is a relation to at least one event in the Torah, and this is exactly the event we're talking about. The spies that came with the bad report, and God wasn't happy with it, right? With the spies. What else? What else happened on Tish'a B'Av? So I'm just going to share a few others with you really quickly. Have you heard about the fall of Beitar? Okay, so the fall of Beitar, that was the stronghold of Bar Kokhba revolt. If you're familiar with the Bar Kokhba revolt, over 100,000 Jews were killed on the Tish'a B'Av. The plowing of the Temple Mount, meaning we said both were distracted, but actually the Roman commander Rufus at the time raised the site, okay, symbolizing total desecration. We actually also have expulsion from France in 1306 on Tish'a B'Av. Start of World War I was on Tish'a B'Av. Okay, that's where Germany declared war on Russia. Okay, why is it related? Actually, that set up the stage for World War II and the Holocaust. Okay, that's how, talking about the Holocaust, the approval of the final solution by Nazi Germany was in 1941 when Heinrich Himmler, who received the Nazi Party approval for the Holocaust. Another thing related to the Holocaust, it was the deportation from the Warsaw ghetto. It was mass transport of Jews to Treblinka. Now, everything in Europe was bad during the Holocaust, but actually Warsaw was considered to be a ghetto, like a holding place. Treblinka was a death camp. If you were brought to Treblinka, that was pretty much to be murdered, right? So it's actually the deportation, mass deportation began on Tish'a B'Av from Warsaw to Treblinka. More modern day, the bombing of the Jewish Community Center in Buenos Aires, Tish'a B'Av, okay? First Crusades, by the way, started, initiated on the 24th, but its early massacres of Jews started on when they were mourning Tish'a B'Av. So we have a lot of reasons why we call it the saddest day in the year on the Jewish calendar. But the main event that people remember, commemorate the Tish'a B'Av, have to do with Jerusalem, the temples, right? That's the first thing that jumped into everybody's mind. The destruction of both the first and the second temple. Keep this in mind as I move on to my next point. Okay, so that was just a little bit about Tish'a B'Av. The next point, I call it God and us. So our God, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, has a plan. He describes his plan in the Bible, right? This is one of the reasons the Bible begins with creation, right? Creating of the world. So, and that's actually going to be a question to you. So in creation, God created us, humans. He created us differently. He created us in His image, as it is written in Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. And God created humankind in the divine image, creating it in the image of God. What does it mean to be created in the image of God? What does it mean to you? What do you think it is? When we said, yes, please. Some level of free will, right? So many people relate to different things, but that's exactly what I think is probably one of the most important things, okay? So one of the important aspects of being created in the image of God is freedom of choice, okay? Unlike all other creatures on earth, He gave us, humans, the ability to choose. God has a purpose for each one of us. And He wants us to choose out of our own free will to fulfill this purpose. So in Hebrew we have many names for God. One of them is Adonai, We have a lot of them, right? If I'm going to ask how many names we have, we're probably going to be here until tomorrow. So the one actually the one I'm referring to is Avinu, our father. Okay? So let's say that, Avinu. Okay? Avinu. Let's say Avinu. So God sees us the way a loving parent sees their children. Okay? How many people here have children? Good. Do you know that feeling you get when your child chooses to do the right thing completely of their own free will? It's a very special feeling for a parent, isn't it? So another Hebrew lesson, which actually I don't know if it's Hebrew because it all depends how you pronounce it. Some say maybe it's come from some other language. I'm not going to say which one, but we have a word in Hebrew that we use for sure in Israel in a specific way. I pronounce it a little bit different here in America. That word doesn't exist in English. I couldn't find any way to say that word in English without giving a long description. The word describes what a parents feel when their child is doing the right thing. Nachat, exactly. Okay? I said we pronounce it differently. In Israel we say nachat. I know here many people saying nachas, right? But it's the same thing. So in this one word that captured what parents feel when their child chooses to do the right thing, a combination of joy, pride, and fulfillment. So let's all remember that word because I'm going to use it a lot. Let's say with me, nachat. Nachat. We're going to do it Israeli way. Nachat. That's it. So it is the same with God. He doesn't need any of us for his plan, right? But he wants us to be a part of it. Just as a parent wants their children to choose to do the right thing. Now, I don't know about you. I want to give God nachat. Do you want to give God nachat when you can, right? We don't always perfect. I know how it goes. I have kids. But we want to give God nachat, right? We want to do the things that we were purposed for and to do it out of our own free will. So we're all God's children. Everybody on earth are God's children. But for many years we didn't work together to fulfill God's plan or our biggest purpose. So let me ask you a question. How many people here have more than one child? Can I see hands? Okay. So can you imagine your children fighting, hating each other, and even harming one another? It would break a parent's heart. There is no nachat in that. Now imagine these two children going to the parents and saying, we have stopped fighting. We have stopped hating. We have stopped harming each other. We are now doing what you, dear parent, have always wanted us to do. And we're doing it out of our own free choice, our own free will. What a huge nachat it is when your children get along. What a joy when they choose to do the right thing together out of their own free will. This is how God feels when he sees us united, coming together to do the right thing, choosing out of our own free will to be a part of the plan. So my beloved Kathy and I have 4 daughters, as you heard. 1 lives in Israel, 1 in Scotland, by the way, 2 in America. They're each unique, and I don't expect them to be the same. But that doesn't mean that Kathy or I love any of them less than the others. Each one of us has our purpose, and each one of us is important for the purpose we were made for. It is the same with God. Yes, we're not the same, but as Avinu, our Father, God loves us all, despite our differences, because those differences are part of his plan. To summarize this point, that was my point number 2. We all have a purpose, and we all have part in God's plan. We make God very happy out of our own free will. We unite to fulfill his plan. Okay? Do you believe you have a purpose? How many people here believe? I believe I have a purpose. Do you believe you have a purpose? Can I see hands? Good. Okay. So let's unite together and see maybe what God wants from us, at least when it comes for the topic I'm talking about today. Let's give him some nachat. So I'm going to go now to my third and final point. So what is God's plan? Well, we could spend probably an entire year just discussing and debating what is God's plan. But today, I want to highlight one important aspect of it. I will start with a teaching I heard from a Christian friend, a minister named Billy Brim. And she talked to her congregation, okay? And she's saying that God created and loves all the places on earth. But in the whole world, there is this land that God mentions a lot in the Bible, the land of Israel. And in all of the land of Israel, there is this one city called Jerusalem, Zion. And in this place, Zion is so precious to God that he chose it as his sacred site for his earthly home, the temple. By the way, God didn't need an earthly home, but he said, that will be my home. That's where I want my temple, okay? So now, Jerusalem is not just important to God, it's also important for us, the people. King David was not only a ruler, but also a musician. You know he was a musician, right? And his right hand was very important to his art. King David wrote in the book of Psalms, chapter 137, verse 5, "If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skill. אם אשכחך ירושלים, תשכח ימיני." Okay? You know, I want you to repeat that after me, okay? If I forget you, O Jerusalem, may my right hand forget its skills. Now for the Hebrew lesson. אם אשכחך ירושלים, תשכח ימיני. Okay? And King David continues, may my tongue cling to my palate. He was a singer too, right? Can speak that. If I do not remember you, talking about Jerusalem. Okay? So we, the Jewish people, also were forced out of Zion after the destruction of the second temple, as we said, right, by the Romans. And despite being away for 2,000 years, we didn't forget Jerusalem. And we've returned to our ancestral, historical land, the land of Israel. The people of Israel are also mentioned throughout the Bible. And God promised the land of Israel to the people of Israel. As biblical prophecy predicted, the people of Israel were scattered across the world in exile. You do know that the diaspora was a prophecy, right? Okay, in the Tanakh. And just as prophecy described, 2,000 years after that exile, the Jewish people reestablished the state of Israel. We revived the nation of Israel in the land of Israel. Okay? So for us people, it's also important. And actually that was somehow miraculous, right? Because there is no other nation in history that was exiled from its land. It's all end, right? I'm not going to do or. If I'm going to do or, you might find other nations, okay? Was exiled from its land, was heavily persecuted, was forced to stop using its own language, was attacked for its faith, and was pressured to convert. No other nation in history has that. But yet still, after 2,000 years, we returned to its ancestral biblical homeland. We revived its ancient biblical language, Hebrew, and continued to believe in the same God. This cannot be explained in any other way than as a modern day miracle. The only explanation is that it is part of God's plan, right? It was meant to be. So our connection to Jerusalem isn't only recorded in the Jewish Bible. There are other sources, including non-Jewish ones, that affirm the Jewish connection to Jerusalem. Today I'll share just one of those with you because something touched my heart. That's something I was kind of discovered personally lately. So this past May, my beloved Kathy and I traveled to Africa, where I spoke at an Israel-related event, a Christian gathering of pastors from across the continent. They came together in Addis Ababa, or as some of them say Addis Abeba, it all depends how you want to pronounce it, in Ethiopia, to express their support for Israel. Now, why Addis Ababa? Why Ethiopia? Because it's the home of the headquarters of the African Union. Have you heard about the African Union before? How many of you heard about the African Union? Okay, that's a good number. So what is it, for the ones that don't know what it is? It is a continental organization made up of 55 member states across Africa. The African Union plays a vital role in mediating conflicts, coordinating health and education initiatives, and representing Africa on the global stage. It's also an important body for Israel, serving as a key platform for diplomacy and strengthening ties with African nations. That's why the Israeli ambassador in Ethiopia, which is actually a Jew from Ethiopia, he was originally from Ethiopia, he's also the Israeli ambassador for the African Union, okay, because it's actually there. So at the conference I attended, Christian pastors from across Africa gathered in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, home of the African Union headquarters, to voice their support of Israel. I want to show you that, by the way. These are the pastors. The conference has many people, but these are the leaders that flew in from different countries, representing over 20 countries. And they spent 3 days in Addis Ababa for one purpose, to talk about how they can help Africa work closely with Israel. They believe in close relations and supporting Israel. So my beloved Kathy and I arrived a few days before the conference began. And we hired a local guide, a Christian man, to show us around Addis Ababa. You know, we said we'll take this opportunity. It was like a very interesting city for us to visit. So as we toured Addis Ababa, we noticed something remarkable. The Star of David and the Lion of Judah appeared in many places. Did you know that? Some of you do, okay? On public buildings and even in churches, okay? So I'm going to... This is in a church. They have a special museum in the church because it's one of the ancient historical, Ethiopian Orthodox churches, and they have a special museum there. And in the yard, they have this specially made pottery. See the guy in the middle? That's the king. That's from the Ethiopian king dynasty. And when I look at it, we were there. I took a photo of that because look what he has. That's the Star of David, okay? Now, we also went to some of their important places, museums, about their history and all that. And as we get to one of the gates there, I'm looking up the gate, and what do I see at the top? The 2 lions. By the way, they all refer to them lions of Judah. But then I looked closer at it. By the way, it's not what do you see right there in the middle? Star of David. So everywhere you go, like in Addis Ababa, I'm not talking about Christians. You see that. So we asked our guide, why there are so many Jewish symbols throughout Ethiopia? And again, I'm not talking just about the Jewish community. We visited them also, by the way. I went to a synagogue of the Beta Israel there. I mean, Jewish symbols literally everywhere. So our tour guide recommended we read a book called The Glory of the Kings. Anybody here heard about it? This is one of the most culturally and historically significant texts in the Ethiopian tradition. Again, not Jewish, Ethiopian. It's originally written in the ancient Ethiopian language called the Ge'ez. I don't know if you heard about it, okay? Many people know him by its Ge'ez, even so many people don't speak Ge'ez, but they call it still by its original name. It's a Cobra Negost. That's how it's called. That's what we talked about, Rabbi Danny, earlier, right? So in this book, by the way, that's the book. I bought it when they told me. It said buy it. And you can see here, I have an English translation on the right, but this is the Ethiopian, ancient Ethiopian reading on the left. So in this book, you can also read about the Queen of Sheba's journey to Jerusalem to meet King Solomon. Now that was around the year 950 BCE. And according to Ethiopian tradition, for about 1,300 years afterwards, the majority of Ethiopians follows the laws that the Queen of Sheba brought back with her from Jerusalem. For almost 1,300 years, they pretty much kept the Torah laws. Now, they kept everything up to the time of Solomon. Everything that we have after that, the oral Torah, the Talmud, and all that, never made it there. Because kind of historically, almost it kind of separated. So that book is then obviously is not exactly like our Bible, right? But what described about King Solomon and Queen of Sheba is perfectly fits our own Bible. So in our 1 Kings chapter 10, we read about the queens of Sheba visited Jerusalem to meet King Solomon, an encounter that left her deeply moved. In verse 9 she declares, and I'm quoting, "Praise be the eternal your God. We delighted in you and set you on the throne of Israel. It is because of God's everlasting love for Israel that you were made king to administer justice and righteousness," end quote. It is the Queen of Sheba saying, okay? So the same event described in our Bible is also documented in historic Ethiopian text written by ancient language in Ge'ez. It's just one external source that confirms Jerusalem and the temple existed as described in the Bible. Unfortunately, I have to say today, because there's some doubting a few things about things that we have in our history as Jews. So Jerusalem is certainly part of God's plan. And when we come together in support of Israel and Jerusalem, we bring great nachat to God. Okay? So let me ask you, how many people here support Israel? Can I see hands? Okay. So what can we do today to support Israel? That was the point of my, right, when I kind of brought it up, like how do we bring it to life today? So there are many meaningful actions we can take. I'm just going to give you a few ideas. Some of you might even have better ideas than mine, okay? So first is to act. What we can do today in support of Israel, Jerusalem, okay, is to tell our government about the importance of the land of Israel and Jerusalem to us, the Jewish people. Meet with politicians in person, write to them, and educate them. Now, when you try to do it together, let's try to do it together united. We will give him even more nachat doing it united, right? Doing it together out of our own free will. Also, don't forget to go to local events in support of Israel. For example, this October, there will be another African Night Honor Israel. Actually, let me ask you a question, because I know I did it a lot, Shara Chesed. How many people here ever attended in the past the African Night Honor Israel here in Minnesota? Can I see hand? A few of you. Good. How was the event? It was such nachat, exactly. So what it is, we have actually African churches here, most of them new immigrants to Minnesota, by the way. That's why they're not African Americans. Most of them came from Africa. Okay, they're like first generation, and they come and celebrate with us. They want to help us fight anti-Semitism. They started it because the pastor that actually ran it visited Israel and went to Yad Vashem, and he was totally shocked. And he said, we can't let that thing happen again. And he decided to come back here. And despite all the other things that they have to deal with, it's not easy for them. He decided that they should, as Christians, actually fight anti-Semitism too, right, and support Israel. So talking about local event, and that's the one I'm going to mention, is so first, mark your calendar. We have another one coming up. We're going to have it on October 26th, Sunday, October 26th, right here in the Twin Cities at 5 p.m. What they do, they have dinner, and then followed by the program. Both are free. Okay. Kosher food too. Yeah, we also make sure that there's, well, you have the kosher style that they make. So what they do, their kitchen talk to me to make sure they're making it kosher style for most of the people that come, but then we also make sure to bring certified kosher for the one that wants certified kosher. So you have both options. I want to make sure that it's respectful. So remember that. Sometimes you see things you remember. I'm not always good to bring it out to the most of the Jewish community. But it's the kind of event that really will warm your heart when you see others that are helping us fight anti-Semitism and support Israel. You should see them in their colored, they come in very colorful attire, like their traditional one. And in the beginning, usually they put like a couple of Jewish songs and we dance. And I'm so happy they do it in the beginning, because in the middle of the program, they put their songs and they're dancing, and I'm saying, thanks God we danced first. You know, because when they dance, they dance. So, yeah. Also, I want to tell you, for talking about action here, also attend the local Israel Memorial Day services. I don't know how many of you know, but you know, Yom HaZikaron is a very important, meaningful day. And also, we have the Israel Independence Day, usually on the same week. So these are things that, by the way, people ask me, when is it? I'm like, 2 weeks after Pesach, because it's like, it's going by the Jewish calendar, so it's about 2 weeks after Pesach, so it could be anywhere late April or early May. This is one thing. Second thing, prayer is very important, because when you pray, you also remember, keep it in mind. So when you pray, always think about also the state of Israel and Jerusalem. And my last point is lead by example. And lead, I mean, go visit Israel. Okay? And make sure to spend time in, we're talking today about Jerusalem. Started with the Tish'a, the destructions of the temples. We're back there. We couldn't do that like 70 years ago. We couldn't go there. This is the one action I ask each and every one of you today to at least start about thinking about planning on it and doing it. So now in the Bible we're commanded to ascend to Jerusalem 3 times a year on what we call Shloshet HaRegalim, the 3 pilgrimage festivals. It's Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. The services at the Kotel, the Western Wall, during the 3 festivals are beyond words. How many of you actually was able to be in Jerusalem at the Western Wall during one of the festivals? Can I see hands? See that the whole plaza packed, right? You have to be there to truly experience that. Ask them, okay? Ask the ones that were there. So for example, 13 years ago I was in Israel during Shavuot. We were a small group, some Jewish, some Christians. On the eve of Shavuot, the tradition is to engage in Tikkun Leil Shavuot, right? So an all-night Torah study that prepares the soul for the receive of the Torah, and you, in the next morning. So our little group, 13 years ago, visited few places during the night, walking from our hotel toward the Western Wall. The streets were filled with people making their way to Torah study sessions. We're talking to the middle of the night, right? I stopped to study at Bet HaKnesset HaGadol, which is the great synagogue of Jerusalem. From there, I continued to the center of conservative Judaism. It's on Agnon Street. If you're ever in Jerusalem, make plan to go to Agnon Street. There's where the center of the conservative Judaism. At least 13 years ago, it's still there, right? Yeah, good. Then I entered the old city and went to the new Aish building at the time for more study. And just because before morning services were about to begin, I made my way to the rooftop. That's actually why I went to that building. You just sit above the plaza. You can see everything. From the rooftop, facing the Western Wall, I watched the sunrise over the Temple Mount. The Western Wall Plaza was packed, not just with people below, but also with people on balconies, rooftops, and surrounding buildings. You need to be there to see it. It's unbelievable. Like, people were hanging everywhere. So, so on that day, that's actually just before it started. So actually the sun, we're facing east, right? Because this is the Western Wall. I didn't take that photo, by the way. It's Shavuot, right? I found out later that a Christian friend that was standing behind me, that arm there is my arm, they took the photo, and after that they told me they took the photo. I said, okay, I'll take it, right? And look at the plaza. Now, I don't know if you can see, but all these areas, like around it, you see the homes, all the rooftops were actually packed with people. Actually, on that day, and I checked, that over 100,000 people visited the Western Wall for Shavuot services. Not all of them at the same time, obviously. I think in that service I went and checked, there were 14,000 people in the plaza itself, not including the people around it. It was an uplifting experience beyond words. I also recommend, if you go to Jerusalem, to spend a few days without any set plans. Let your legs lead you to unplanned experiences, places, and people. Some of my most meaningful moments in Jerusalem happened when I had no specific agenda. Just time to walk, explore, and connect. So to summarize, the topic of my speech today is from mourning to meaning. Okay, we're mourning Tish'a B'Av, right? Talked about God and that we have a purpose. So that's the meaning. And we talk about Jerusalem, right? The connection. So in Tish'a B'Av, we learned about why we commemorate Tish'a B'Av. My second point was us and God. We talked about that we have a purpose, that we were created in His image. We have a free choice. Use it the best you can. Okay? And the last point was Jerusalem and God's plan. We talked about it, how Jerusalem is playing a vital role in God's plan and our purpose, not just personally, as also as a people. And we talked about what we can do today to support Jerusalem. We talked about the actions we can take. And again, and I'm challenging each and every one of you, plan on going to Jerusalem during one of the Shlosh Regalim. Good. So together we can bring ancient bonds to life today. So when you'll be there, that will be the bond. And I think I'm out of time, right? Or
Yishar Koach to
thank you.
So this is beautiful, and I don't know if anybody has any reflections or questions or comments that they might have before we begin the next section of Tefillah.
Actually, what I want to do, I want to acknowledge we have rabbis here with us. All the rabbis, would please stand, because you don't have just questions for me. Would you please stand, all the rabbis, because you have rabbis in the room. Always ask questions.
Rabbi.
Come, please stand.
Rabbi.
Please stand. Rabbis, please. Thank you, rabbis. Thank you. So, yeah. Yes. And cantors, yes. Yes, absolutely. So, thank you. Does anybody have any specific question? Yes.
Africa's a big country.
Yes.
How many countries are there?
You know you're in a Jewish place. They're already correcting you, everybody.
So, hold on.
Ethiopia.
Yes.
Jerry, wait.
Africa is
Yes.
a very large continent,
Right.
many countries.
Yeah.
Has Israel attempted? I mean, it was in Liberia at one point.
Yes.
Very strong contingent.
Yeah.
Is there any movement towards finding other African countries that feel like Ethiopia does?
Yes. So first, I will answer that from the conference we were at. There are over 20 countries in that conference. And what I found out, actually, in Africa, the politicians actually respecting their religious people probably more than anywhere else. Actually, many of them have a direct access to the president, prime ministers, and they actually listen to them. One of the amazing moments I showed it to Danny, I don't know if I'll have time to show it to there, was 2 minutes at the end of that conference, totally uncalled for. The organizer called me and Cassie to the center. You have the representative of each country standing around us and asking them to bless Israel and the Jewish people as Christian pastors, right? Very quickly, it became them starting to apologize. And the one that really touched me, it was the turn of the South African. And I don't know if you know about South Africa right now. In Israel, they're not exactly supporters of Israel right now, to say the least, okay? So he actually stood there as a Christian pastor, very humbled, and kind of said, I'm very sorry about what my country is doing. I want to tell you that as a person of faith, I'm going to do everything I can so my government will fail in their plans for Israel. Their plans is to, they have a lot of actions they take, their government. So this is from the Christian side. I know Israel for many years considered Africa as a very important place. We have a few embassies in there. Actually, we have the ambassador, the Israeli ambassador to Addis Ababa was there. And I was actually in touch with some other ambassadors in other countries. For example, I'm actually heading back there in September to speak in Kenya and Nairobi, trying to get in touch with the embassy there. Next year, we're going to be in Ghana, I think. There's also Israeli delegation there. So the approach is not just to have this movement starting, but also connect them with the official ones. So one of the people that I brought to this conference, a friend of mine, because his brother lives here. Now, how many of you know Ronen Malka? Have you heard about Ronen Malka? You know who Malka is? Right, okay. His brother is an Israeli that fly a lot to Ethiopia. So when I told him, Eli, I'm coming, and I don't know a lot about Addis Ababa, what can I do? He said, I'll send a person to come and pick you up at the airport. So I asked that person, how do you know Eli? He said, oh, I'm in that Israeli project. The Israeli government is helping us in our agriculture project. And I'm the one that now help Eli manage them. And I told them, what did you do? They said they took us and they trained us how to grow more produce, avocados, right? And to be able to be more profitable as farmers. I told them, oh, great, wonderful. How many farmers do you support? 50,000. That Israeli project helped 50,000 farmers really to become successful for growing avocados. From everything that they learned actually was from Israel. So there's also these things going on. Hope I answered your questions. Thank you. Any more questions? Yes.
So Adaf has a connection with a Jewish community in Uganda. But I'm wondering what you do or what you don't know about the Lemba and their belief in their connection to being part of the original tribe.
You know, we can probably spend a whole weekend on that.
Right.
By the way, we did have a pastor from Uganda there, right? We had a pastor that came from Uganda. I'm not very familiar with what exactly going on there. Right?
Uganda?
Yes, in Uganda personally. It doesn't mean that I won't go visit there. But I have to tell you, almost so many of the African countries, you go and talk to them, and they say, "Oh yeah, we're somehow connected to the Jewish people." It really amazes me. One of them came and told me, "Yeah, and we are our people. We see ourselves connection. We somehow see ourselves Jews. Yes, we're Christians, but we love Israel, love the Jews." And I told them, "Okay, it would be nice to have your support. How many people do you have in your 20 million?" So it's all over. I don't know how we are about time.
Maybe one more question?
Okay, one more question. And again, we have rabbis here that are way better than I am. So if you have any question about Tish'a B'Av or any of these, don't be shy to ask them too. Any more questions or feedback or?
Can I ask another one?
Yes. That will be $5, please.
After Shabbat.
Okay.
How do we know the spies are connected to Tish'a B'Av?
Okay. Any one of the other rabbis want to answer that? Or do you want me to give you like the...
It was part of my davar this morning.
Yeah,
right? So
yes,
I
please,
don't know.
please.
No, that's it. That as inheritors, one of the teachings, the Hebrew word Yerushatenu, right? That we are inheritors of the land, and what does that mean? And when Moses is speaking about this, he says Resh, the letter Resh, the shape of the letter Resh. It goes from the ground and reaches up like this. And if we are a Resh, an inheritor, we act, each of us, as a conduit to be able to move from the earthly to the heavenly and bring some of those blessings back to where we all are, where we all live. But if we pronounce it, instead of pronouncing it the Resh, we pronounce it the Rash, it's to be a pauper, to be a poor spiritual person, spiritually in poverty. And so that Resh never is so rooted in the earthly realm, it never thinks to go and access the heavenly and bring some of these brachot back to earth. And for, I think, the 10 spies who came back, they were too rooted in the earthly realm and couldn't see. And so you had Yehoshua, Joshua, and Caleb, who acted as true inheritors, Yerushatenu. And we need to all be like that. We need to all be Resh, not Rash. Spiritual inheritors, not spiritual paupers. So that's on many shoulders that I've stood on before.
So
where I get that.
That's the beautiful thing about the Torah, right? You have so many pills, right? So regarding that, actually for the spies, going back to the spies. So after the sin of the spies, it says actually in the Torah, it's written in the Torah, that the Israelites wept after hearing a fearful report about Canaan. And it says that God decreed in the Torah that this day would be one of mourning for generations. But it didn't say on this month, on this day. So in the Talmud, the rabbis going to say that was Tish'a B'Av. So that's why I say it wasn't directly directed, but the event and the relation actually appears in the Torah. But because it didn't appear as a regular holiday on this month, on the day, the commentary came from the oral Torah, and therefore it's not a holiday because it's not directly commanded in the Torah, but the Talmud actually discussed that. Does that make sense? Great, thank you. Thank you all, I very much appreciate that.
יישר כוח,
Thank you,
אילי.
thank you.
כל הכבוד לך. כל הכבוד. יישר כוח. So we have, or you can share, we have Sidurim, our Lev Shalem, the red hardcover. And also I want to thank Adath Yeshurun for sharing with us their Chamesh Megillot, the thinner red hardcover. And they're over there by Bruce, by the door, if you don't have one of those. And I'll bring those back this week, okay? You don't have to take them back tonight. We'll begin our Mariv service on page 264, and then we'll do Havdalah, and then we'll get into our reading of Echa. But I see my friends, the Ingbers, are here, and I think Lisa, you mentioned, oh, you have Ruth Brin's book here. You took a class from her, poetry, and I shared that. I use Judy's mom's Drashim, her Midrashim, every Shabbat. So I actually had one that I have bookmarked. I was going to read it, but I'm going to let you read it when it comes time, okay? So let's daven together on this waning hour of Shabbat Chazon into Tish'a B'Av, page 264. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, והרבה להשיבה פה ולהאיר כל חמתו. אדוני הושיע, המלך יעננו, ויום קורנו. Let's rise together as a קהילה. ברכו את אדוני המבורך. Baruch Adonai Borach Leolam Vaed. Please be seated. Baruch Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Bidvaro Mariv Haravim B'Chochma Potech Sharim. El Chai V'Kayam Tamid Yimloch Aleinu Elam Vaed. Baruch Adonai Hamariv Aravim Ahavat Olam Beit Yisrael Amchata Torah Mitzvot Chuyim Mishpatim. כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה כי הם חיינו ואורך ימינו ובהם נגה יומם ולילה ועבדך תצילנו לעולמים ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל. The Shema, let's do the first paragraph on page 265 together, and then we'll recite the rest of the Shema individually. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך והיה אם שמוע תשמעו את שפת ישר הולכים את צפת Adonai Elohechem emet. Be'emunah kol zot v'kam. Continuing silently until we arrive together in the middle of page 267. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לכענו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה פלא מלכותך ראו בניך בוקע ים לפני משה זה אלי ענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פעל אדוני יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גאל ישראל. Let's read together in the English the Hashkivenu on the bottom of page 267, Peace in the Night. Allow us, Adonai our God, to sleep peacefully. Awaken us to life, O Sovereign. Spread over us your canopy of peace. Restore us with your good counsel, and save us for the sake of your name. Shield us. Remove from us enemies, pestilence, sword, starvation, and sorrow. Remove the evil forces that surround us. Shelter us in the shadow of your wings. For you, God, watch over and deliver us. And you are sovereign, merciful, and compassionate. Ensure our going and coming for life and peace, now and forever. Baruch atah Adonai, eternal guardian of your people Israel. Ushmo tzeitzenu vo'enu l'chaim u'shalom. Ve'ata v'ad olam, Baruch atah Adonai, shomer amo Yisrael la'ad. Page 269 at the bottom. Yikara b'yikara shmei rabba, be'amad yivra kiruteh, v'yamlich machuteh, v'chayichon v'yamechon v'chayeduchal beit Yisrael, v'agalav v'zmakari v'imruhu. Amen. Yeshmer rabba rabach, le'olam ameh amaya, yiparach v'yishtabach, v'yipar v'yitroma v'yinaseh, v'yidar v'yitaleh v'tadal, shmei l'kutsha brichuhu, le'elam min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nech mata, damiran be'alma v'imruhu. Amen. So please rise and take some time for yourself, private conversation between you and Hashem, beginning on page 270. And please feel at ease to have a seat when you're finished. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rav al Yisrael Amcha Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech adon לכל השלום, כי אתה הוא מלך אדון לכל השלום. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך תשים לעולם. תשים לעולם. Page 280, קדיש שלם. יתגדל ויקדש שמי רבה, בעלמא דיברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי, וחייכון ובימיכון וחיי דרך בית ישראל, והגלה בזמן קריב יאמרו. יהי שמי רבה מבורך, לעולם אמן. יתברך וישתבח ויפר ויתרומם וינשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ותדע שמי קודשה בריחו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה תאמירם בעלמא ויאמרו. תתקבל צלותון ובעלתון דכל ישראל קודם ובהון ובשמיים ויאמרו. יהי שלום רב עמית שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויאמרו. עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל שבטי תבל ויאמרו. Let's rise on page 281 for עלינו. עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצא בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם וגורלנו ככל המונם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא, שהוא נוטה שמיים ויוצר הארץ משה ושמיים ושמיים. ככתוב בתורתך, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, ונאמר, והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ. ביום ההוא, יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו אחד. Mourners and those observing Yortzeit, the Mourner's Kaddish is on page 282, and to those who recently experienced a loss in their family in the midst of Shloshim or Shiva, Hamakom Yinachem Etchem B'toch Shar Avelei Tzion Yerushalayim. As we understand that it is not God's part to spare us suffering, and that's part of our human condition, we know that, but we do look to you, dear God, to help us bear the pain when death touches our life. And we do right to ask you for the strength that can give us some of the beautiful insights to reveal some of the mysteries in this universe, to help transform, if not all of our sorrow, some of our sorrow into blessing. As mourners and those observing Yortzeit now rise to sanctify your holy name in the words of the Kaddish Yatom 282. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shmei rabah. בעלמא דיברה קירותי וימליך מלכותי, בחייכון וביומייכון ובחיי דכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב ואמרו יהי שמי רבם מבורך לעולם עמי עמיה. יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קודשה לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל יושבי תבל ואמרו. So Havdalah is conveniently located for us right on the next page, on page 283 in our Sidurim. We'll rise for Havdalah, and I think we'll dim the lights, okay? So Henny. I'll do that. Yay day 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 yay day 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 yay day 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 yay day 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen borei peri hagafen yay day 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 yay day 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 yay day 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 yay day 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 yay day yay day 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei minei v'sapim borei hamim yay day 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 yay day 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 Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei me'orei ha'esh borei me'orei ha'esh yay day 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 yay day 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 yay day 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 yay day 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 yay day yay day 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 Baruch atah Adonai Elohei melech haolam hamavdil ben kodesh lecho ben or lechoshet yadadada ben Yisrael le'amin ben yom hashvi'i ששת ימי המעשה ברוך אתה אדוני המבדיל בין קודש לכל ידעי ידיים ידיים שבוע טוב, 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 שבוע טוב. אליהו הנביא, אליהו התשבי, אליהו, אליהו, אליהו הגלעדי, במהרה וימינו יבוא אלינו, עם משיח בן דוד, עם משיח בן דוד. So before we, by the way, make yourselves at home. If you need some water, you should please drink. Okay, we've got some waters in the back and also out here. We do have candles. If people want to sit on the floor, please do so, whatever you're comfortable with. We're going to be dimming these lights here and just enough light for our readers to come up to the bima. And I do want to thank our readers today, Rabbi Avram Etedgi, Harlan Brand, and also Lisa Bromer. Thank you for being Balei Kriya for us. I selected one of your mom's
a beautiful
writings,
one.
and this one ties in so beautifully about the temple, and so go for it.
I only want to give a preface to Ruth Firestone Brin's work. She never shied away from a commentary that was involved with recent time in relation to past time. She was dear friends of two different families, and I want to remember them at this time, and both had to do with the fact that Ethiopia has had a very confusing relationship with Jews. The Halpern family, I don't know if any of you know about this, but they had two sons, and one was dedicated to trying to get knowledge to the general world about the Ethiopian Jews, their problems in Gondor, their difficulties, and he was killed in a car accident, and we must remember him. John is his brother who lives here. The other family I wanted to bring up was the Shendar family. Tzlila was the wife, and at the moment, as sometime happened, I can't remember the man, but they were shlichim from Israel specifically to help the Ethiopians and the Ethiopian Jews, and they were expelled at the very late 60s. And Mr. Shandar, alav shalom, was the engineer who built the marina in Tel Aviv. But we don't forget that period, and if they had been in better relations with Jews, the Ethiopian Jews wouldn't have spent so much time suffering, and there wouldn't have been two airlifts to get them out of the Civil War, and the fact that they were not being helped. So pardon me for the politics, but I had to put that in. This poem is called Building. Out of the cedars of the forest, the ores of the mountains, the stones of the hills, the copper of the desert, from the earth itself, the metals hidden in the earth and the life that springs from the earth. They built the temple where they came to worship the creator of the earth. The temple was a psalm of stone.
So our first reader is my father, Rabbi Avram Etedgi, who will be reading chapters 1 and 2 from Echa, and you'll find that on page 35 in our Chamesh Megillot. Toda le'adat Yeshurun. Well, we'll try. We'll turn it up a little bit for people, okay? Okay. Good? Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah.
So even if I make a mistake, you're not going to know because you can't read right now, right? איכה ישבה בדד, העיר רבתי עם, הייתה כאלמנה, רבתי בגויים, שרתי במדינות, הייתה למס. בכו תבכה בלילה, ודמעתה על לחייה, אין לה מנחם מכל אוהביה, כל רעיה בגדו בה, היו לה לאויבים. גלתה יהודה מעוני ומרוב עבודה, היא ישבה בגויים, לא מצאה מנוח, כל רודפיה השיגוה בין המצרים. דרכי ציון אבלות, מבלב האמועד, כל שעריה שוממין, כהניה נאנחים, בתורותיה נונות, והימר לה. היו צריה לראש, אויביה שלו, כי אדוני הוגה על רוב פשעיה, עולליה הלכו שבי לפני צר. ויצא מבת ציון כל הדרה, היו שריה כעלים לא מצאו מראה, וילכו בלא כוח לפני רודף. זכרה ירושלים ימי עוניה, ומרודיה כל מחמדיה, אשר היו בימי קדם, בנפול עמה ביצר, ואין עוזר לה. ראו הצרים, שחקו על משפטיה, חטא חטאה ירושלים, על כן לנידה הייתה. כל מכבדיה הזילוה, כי ראו ערוותה, גם היא נאנחה ותשוב אחור. טומאתה בשוליה, לא זכרה אחריתה, ותרת פלאים, אין מנחם לה. ראה אדוני את עוני, כי הגדיל אויב. ידו פרסר על כל מחמדיה, כי ראתה הגויים באו מקדשה, אשר ציווית לא יבואו בקהלך. כל עמה נאנחים מבקשים לחם, נתנו מחמדיהם באוכל להשיב נפש. ראה אדוני והביטה, כי הייתי זוללה. לא עליכם קרוב לדרך, הביטו ראו, אם יש מכאוב כמכאובי, אשר עולה לי, אשר הוגה אדוני ביום חרון אפו. ממרום שלח אש בעצמותי וידנה, פרש רשת לרגלי, השיבני אחור, נתנני שוממה כל היום דבה. נשקד עול פשעי בידו, ישתרו, עלו על צווארי, יכשיל כוחי, נתנני אדוני בידי לא אוכל קום. סילה כל אבירי אדוני בקרבי, קרא עלי, מועל לשבור בחורי. גת דרך אדוני לבתולת בת יהודה, על אלה אני בוכייה. עיני עוד המים, כי רחק ממני מנחם משיב נפשי. היו בני שוממים, כי גבר אויב. פרסה ציון בידיה, אין מנחם לה. ציווה אדוני ליעקב סביבה צריו. הייתה ירושלים ונידה ביניהם. צדיק הוא אדוני כפיהו מריתי, שמונה כל העמים וראו מכאובי, בתורותי ובחורי הלכו בשבי. קראתי להם אהבי הם מרימוני, כהני וזקני בעיר נבאו, כי ביקשו אוכל למו וישיבו את נפשם. ראה אדוני כי צר לי מאיך מרמרו, נפח ליפי בקרבי, כי מרו מריתי, מחוץ שקלה חרב בבית כמוות. שמעו כי נאנחה אני, אין מנחם לי, כל אויבי שמעו רעתי, ששו כי אתה עשית, הבאת היום קראתיה ביוחמוני. תבוא כל רעתם לפניך ועוללמו, כאשר עוללת לי על כל שעה, כי רבות הלכותיי וליבי דווי. איכה יהי באפו אדוני בציון, השליך משמיים ארץ תפארת ישראל, ולא זכר אדום רגלה ביום אפו. בילה אדוני לא חמל, את כל נאות יעקב הרס בעברתו, מבצרי בת יהודה הגיע לארץ, חילל ממלכה ושריה. גרה באפה בחורייף, כל קרן ישראל השיב בחור, ימינו מפני אויב. ויבער ביעקב כאש להבה, אכלה סביב. דרך קשתו כאויב, ניצב ימינו קצר, ויהרו כל מחמדי עין. באוהל בציון, שפך כאש חמתו. היה אדוני כאויב בילה ישראל, בילה כל אלמנותיה, שיחת מבצריו. וירא בבת יהודה, תעניה ועניה. ויחמוש כגן סוכו, שיחת מועדו. שיקח אדוני בציון, מועד ושבת, וינעץ וזעמה פה, מלך וכהן. זנח אדוני מזבחו, ניער מקדשו, הסגיר ביד אויב, חומות ארמנותיה. כל נתנו בבית אדוני, כיום בועד. חשב אדוני להשחית חומת בציון, נטע הקו, לא השיב ידו מבליה, ויחל חל וחומה יחדיו אומללו. טבעו בארץ שעריה, איבד ושיבר בריחיה, מלכה ושריה בגויים אין תורה, גם נביאיה לא מצאו חזון מאדוני. ישבו לארץ צילמו זקני בציון, העלו עפר על ראשם, חגרו שקים, הורידו לארץ ראשן בתולות ירושלים. כלו בדמעות עיני, חמרמרו מאי, נשפך לארץ כבודי, על שבר בת עמי, בהטב עולל ויונק ברחובות קריה. לאמותם יאמרו, איה דגן ויין, בהתעטפם בחלל ברחובות עיר, בהשתפך נפשם אל חיק אמותם. מעידך מד המלך, הבת ירושלים, מה אשברך ונחמך בתולת בציון, כי גדול קיים שברך וירפא לך. נביאייך היו לך שב ותפל, ולא גילו על עוונך להשיב שבותך, ויחזו לך מסעות שב ומדוכים. תבכו עלייך כפיים כל עוברי דרך, שרקו ויגענו ראשם על בת ירושלים. הזאת העיר שיאמרו כלילת יופי, משוש לכל הארץ. פצו עלייך פיהם כל אויבייך, שרקו ויחרקו שן, אמרו בילענו. אך זה היום שקיווינו מצאנו ראינו. עשה אדוני אשר זמם, ביצע אמרתו אשר ציווה, מימי קדם הרס ולא חמל. וישמח עלייך אויב, הרים קרן צריך. צעק ליבם אל אדוני, חומת בציון, הורידי כנחל דמעה יומם ולילה, אל תתני פוגעת לך, אל תדום בת עינייך. קומי רוני בלילה, לראש אשמורות, שפכי כמים ליבך, נוכח פני אדוני, שאי אלייך כפייך. על נפש עול עלייך, העטופים ברעב בראש כל חוצות. ראה אדוני והביטה, למי עוללת כה. אם תאכלנה נשים פריים, עוללי טיפוחים, אם יהרג במקדש אדוני, כהן ונביא. שכבו לארץ חוצות, נער וזקן, בתולותי ובחורי, נפלו בחרב. הרגת ביום אפיך, טבחת, לא חמרת. תקרא כיום מועד מגורי מסביב, ולא היה ביום אף אדוני פליט ושרית, אשר טיפחתי וריביתי, אוי ואי כולם.
Chapter 3 on page 42.
אני הגבר העוני בשבט עברתו, אותי נחג ויולך, חושך ולא אור, אך בי ישוב יהפוך ידו כל היום. בילה בשרי ואורי, שיבר עצמותי, בנה עלי ביעקב, ראש ותלאה, במחשכים חושיבני, כמתי עולם. גדר בעדי ולא אצא, הכביד נחשתי, גם כי אזק ואשבע, Satam tefilati gadar drachai begazit betivotai iva dov orev huli aria v'mistarim drachai sorer v'pashcheni samani shomem darach kashto v'yatziveni kamatara lachet hevi b'chilotai v'nei hashpato chayiti sochoch l'chol hami neginatam kol hayom hishviani b'mamorim hirvani la'ena v'garem b'chatzat Shinai hishpachani va'efer v'tiznach mishalom nafshi nafshiti tova v'amar avad nitzchi v'ticholati me'adonai zechar oni umerudi la'ana v'harosh zachor tizkor Vatasiach alai nafshi, zot ashiv el libi, al ken ochil. Chaste Adonai kilo tamu, kilo chalu rachamav, chadashim labkarim rabba emunatecha, chelki Adonai amra nafshi, Al ken ochilo, tov Adonai lekovav lenefesh tidrashenu, tov v'yachil v'duman litchuvat Adonai, tov lagever kisa'o binu rav, yeshev badad ve'idom ki natal alav, iten ve'afar pihu ulai yesh tikva, iten lamakehu lechi, yisba ve'cherpa, ki lo yiznach le'olam Adonai, ki im choga verichan kirov chasadav, ki lo ina milibo, Vayagevenesh Ledake tachat raglav kol asirei aretz Lechatot mishpat gever neged penei elyon Lavet adam berivo Adonai lo ra'ah Mize amar vatechi Adonai lo tziva, mi pi elyon lo tetze haraot v'chatov, ma yitonen adam chai gever al chata'av, nechbesat derachenu, v'nach korah, nashuva ad Adonai, nasi levavenu, El hakavayim el vashamayim, nachnu pashanu umarinu atah lo salachta. Sakota va'afetid refenu, haragta lo chalamta. Sakota ve'anan lach, me'avor tefillah, sefiu ma'os Tesimenu bekerev ha'amim, patsu alenu pihem kol ha'evenu, pachad ufachad hayalanu, hashet v'hashaver, palgemayim terad enai, al shever bat ami. Eni nigra velo tidme me'en harfugot ad yashkif ve'yare Adonai mishamayim eni olela lenafshi מכל בנות עירי, סוד שדוני כציפור, אויבי חינם, צמתו בבור חיי, ילדו אבן בי, צפו מים על ראשי, אמרתי, נגזרתי. קראתי שמך אדוני מבור תחתיות, קולי שמעת אל תלם אוזנך, לרחבתי לשבתי. קרבת ביום אקראך, אמרת אל תירא. רבת אדוני ריבי, נפשי גאלת וחיי. ראית אדוני אהבתי שופטה משפטי. ראית כל נקמתם, כל מחשבותם לי. שמעת חרפתם אדוני, כל מחשבותם עלי. שפתי קמי והגיונם עלי כל היום. שבטם וקימתם הביטה אני מנגינתם. תשיב לכם גמול אדוני כמעשה ידיכם, תיתן לכם מגינת לב תעלתך לכם. תרדוף באף ותשמידם מתחת שמי אדוני.
Shkoach. Shkoach Harlan. Page 46, chapter 4.
Echayuam zahav, yishne haketem atov, tishtapechna avne kodesh birosh kol chutzot, b'nei Tzion hayikarim, hamsulaim b'hapaz, echa nechshevu l'nivlei cheresh, חרס מעשה ידי יוצר, גם תנים חלצו שד, העניקו גוריהן, בת עמי לאכזר, קיינים במדבר, דבק לשון, יונק, אל חיכו בצמא, עוללים שאלו לחם, פורס אין להם, האוכלים למעדנים, נשמו בחוצות, המונים מעלי תולה, חיבקו אשפתות. ויגדל עוון בית בת עמי מחטאת סדום, ההפוכה כמו רגע ולא חלו בידיים. זעקו נזירה משלג, צחו מחלב, עדנו עצם מפנינים, ספיר גזרתם. חשך משחור תארם, לא נקרו בחוצות. צפד אורים על עצמם, יבש היה העץ. טובים היו חללי חרב, מחללי רע, שהם יעזו מדוכרים מתנובות שדי. ידי נשים רחמניות בישלו ילדיהן, היו לברות למו בשבר בת עמי,
כי לאדוני את חמתו שפך ארון אפו, ויצאת אש בציון, ותאכל יסודותיה. לא האמינו מלכי ארץ, כל יושבי תבל, כי יבוא צר ואויב בשערי ירושלים. מחטאות נביאה, עוונות כהניה, השופכים בקרבה דם צדיקים. נעו עברים בחוצות, נגואלו באדם, ולא יוכלו יגעו בלבושיהם. סירו טמא, קראו למו, סורו אל תיגעו, כי נצו גם נעו. אמרו בגויים לא יוסיפו לגור, פני אדוני חלקם לא יוסיף להביטם. פני כהנים לא נשאו, וזקנים לא חננו. אותנו תכלנה עינינו, אל עזרתנו האבל. בציפייתנו ציפינו, אל גוי לא יושיע. צעדו צעדינו מלכת ברחובותינו, קרב קיצנו, מלאו ימינו כי בקיצנו. קלים היו רודפינו, מנשרי שמיים, על ההרים דלקונו, במדבר ערבו לנו. רוח אפינו משיח אדוני, נלכד בשחיתותם, אשר אמרנו בצילו נחיה בגויים. סיסי ושמחי בת אדום, יושבת בארץ עות, גם עלייך תעבר כוס, תשכרי ותתארי. תם עוונך בת ציון, לא יוסיף להגלותך. פקד עוונך בת אדום, גילה על חטאותייך. זכור אדוני מחיה לנו, הביטה וראה את חרפתנו. נחלתנו נחפכה לזרים, בתינו לנחרים. יתומים היינו ואין אב, אמותינו כאלמנות. מימינו בכסף שתינו, עצנו במחיר יבואו. על צווארנו נרדפנו, יגענו ולא חנוך לנו. מצרים נתנו יד, אשור לסבוע לכם. אבותינו חטאו ועיניים, ואנחנו עוונותיהם סבלנו. עבדים משלו בנו, פורק אין מידם. בנפשנו נביא לחמנו, מפני חרב המדבר. אורנו כתנור נחמרו, מפני זלעפות רעה. נשים בציון עינו, בתולות בערי יהודה. שרים בידם נתלו, פני זקנים לא נדרו. בחורים תיכון נשאו, ונערים בעץ כשלו. זקנים משער שבתו, בחורים מנגינתם. שבת משוש ליבנו, נהפך לאבל מחולנו. נפלה עטרת ראשנו, אוי נא לנו כי חטאנו. על זה היה דווקא ליבנו, על אלה חשכו עינינו. על הר ציון ששמם, שועלים הלכו בו. אתה אדוני לעולם תשב, כיסאך לדור ודור. למה לנצח תשכחנו, תעזבנו לאורך ימים. השיבנו אדוני אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם. כי מאוס מסתנו, קצבת עלינו עד מאוד.
השיבנו אדוני, אליך ונשובה, חדש ימינו כקדם. Yishar Kochechem to Rabbi Tedgi and to Harlan Brand and to Lisa Bromer. Thank you all for preparing the beautiful readings of Echa. And thank you, Ilan Sharon Rav, Ilan, for guiding us from mourning to meaning on this Erev Tish'a B'Av and inspiring us to go and visit Yerushalayim, Ir HaKodesh. And to all of you at Tzom Kal, if you are fasting, and Shavua Tov, please, if you used a candle, or even if you didn't, please take it with you, and take it home with you. And everybody, Shavua Tov. Ooh. I just hit my foot. It's easier getting down than up.
Oh, okay, good. So they're going to do like model national. And then you are doing it more. Yeah. I should probably I mean, give it. So I wonder what you'll find out. I'm curious what they do. I didn't hear my first one when you were do that as a surprise. Yeah. I don't know. And we could have probably stayed for next week, but again, because it was her first year, she was like, many years.
Hi, I'm Daniel. Hi.
Happy travels. See you later.
Danny,
Yeah.
I spilled a little candle.
Oh, that, you know what?
Thank you so much.
It's fine.
Thank you.
You found an envelope here for you?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.